I call this look Elmo core. Hello everyone, my name is Olivia and welcome to a new Books and Brews, a series on my channel where I tell you about 5 books that I recently read that I greatly enjoyed, and I discuss it while I drink a cup of coffee. But this time, I already had a cup of coffee this morning and I cannot have over 1 cup of coffee a day, so I have water with me. But get your preferred beverage, sit down with me, and let's discuss some books that I recently read and would highly recommend. So the first book that I have to recommend is My Body by Emily Ratajkowski. I have been following Emily for years, I think since high school, and I have always really admired her work as a model and an activist, and I just loved how she just stood up for herself and was a very confident person, and I just always admired that in her. And when she announced that she was going to publish a lot of her essays compiled together into a memoir, I was ecstatic. So I requested it from my library, read it in 2 sittings, and fell absolutely in love with what she had to say that I had to buy myself a physical copy. So My Body is a collection of essays from Emily. Some of them have been previously published in other publications, and I have read those and greatly enjoyed it, but this discusses her come to fame as a model, her dark experiences with Hollywood, her sexuality, her relationship with fame, and the various men throughout her life who have exploited and commodified her and assaulted her throughout her time as a model and an actress. There's one quote that I really enjoy from the book that says, "The world celebrates and rewards women who are chosen by powerful men." And Emily really discusses her relationship with that. She discusses how her beauty and her privilege has given her so many different opportunities to make more money and become so famous, but through those opportunities, she is continually demeaned and sexualized and assaulted, and she really opens her door to a private part of her life where she shares her experiences and sets the record straight for various situations that she was put in, like someone profiting off of photos of her naked body and people using her photo as an NFT and trying to make money off of it when it is a photo of herself and she has the rightful ownership to it. So Emily has a very interesting life, and I think if you are mildly interested in her, or if you're mildly interested in a memoir that discusses fame and the darker side of Hollywood and the way that women are treated in those various circles, then I would highly recommend Emily's memoir. But I do know that a lot of people have complained that this is not a universal experience and she doesn't offer any solutions to the problems that she discusses in this novel. I don't know. I think it's a lot to expect one person to change all of Hollywood, but I do enjoy the fact that she discussed her privilege as a beautiful woman, as a skinny woman, and how she has used her body in order to become famous, but it also came with a lot of different side effects, and she kind of felt like she was losing her autonomy, and she's claiming it back with this memoir. So there are a lot of different sides to look at My Body, but I really enjoyed it, and I will definitely read anything else that Emily writes because she has a very addictive type of writing style. It's very conversational, but also personal and very raw, and I just really enjoyed it. I loved every single essay in this essay collection, which is very rare for me, but I just thought it was fantastic. Another nonfiction that I picked up because I was greatly interested by this person and I wanted to learn more about them was Diana, Her True Story in Her Own Words by Andrew Morton. I saw Spencer, the movie, and absolutely loved that movie. I can discuss it far and wide. I probably will in a future video about movies that I've recently seen. But after seeing that movie, I wanted to learn more about Princess Diana because I knew next to none about her. So I researched a little bit online and I was looking up like the best Diana nonfictions to pick up, and a lot of people, especially Oprah's website, said to pick up Andrew Morton's nonfiction. And once I started picking up this nonfiction and I started listening to it, I realized that Andrew Morton actually secretly corresponded with Princess Diana in her palace and asked her all these questions. So he offered the opportunity for her to share her story, and she did it in her own words, and he kind of filled in the gaps in between. So this nonfiction is very extensive in terms of covering Diana's life. It covers her early childhood, her meeting Prince Charles, her marriage to him, the eventual collapse of that marriage, and her relationship with her children, the media, the palace. I think that this nonfiction really covers all the bases in terms of getting to know her better, especially if you were like me and you didn't really know anything about her besides her death. But I really wanted to know more about her because I wanted her legacy to be in my memory rather than her tragedy. I thought this nonfiction was absolutely fantastic. It was a bit long. It's over 13 hours long in terms of audiobook length, but I really enjoyed it. I felt like I was very educated about Diana's life, and I also really enjoyed the fact that Diana had a say in this nonfiction, because I know a lot of nonfictions, especially about celebrities and public figures, can be very skewed if they're not written by themselves. So this nonfiction was a very collaborative effort between Andrew and Diana, and I think that they did such a great job, and I think that it really set the record straight at the time that the book came out, and I thought that that was very important. But I thought that it was just very educational and eye-opening to the horrors of her life and the amount of strife that she had to go through while living in that palace, and I just really commend her for her strength. And if you are thinking of watching Spencer, maybe you can consider reading the nonfiction before diving into the movie. But honestly, I went to Spencer not knowing anything about Princess Diana, and I think that movie was absolutely fantastic in just kind of doing an artistic look at her life. It was very experimental and very A24-esque in a way, but it was also made by Neon, who is also very A24-esque. So, a gigantic book that I'm not going to discuss too deeply because it's a part of a series, it's actually the last novel in a series, is The Labyrinth of the Spirits by Carlos Ruiz Zafón. This is the fourth and final book in the Cemetery of Forgotten books series, and it is a hefty one. It took me quite a while to get through it, and this story really wraps up the loose ends that Carlos created in the Cemetery of Forgotten books series. It is like a crime noir. It is full of plot twists and intrigue and like will leave you on the edge of your seat, and it just had me gasping and raising my eyebrows because I did not know where the story was going, and I just really enjoyed the exploration of all these different characters that I have fallen in love with in previous novels. I also really enjoyed the fact that Carlos kind of wove in pieces of Spanish history into this novel, especially the darker parts of Spanish history that were kind of brushed under the rug, and he kind of pulls that back and examines it, and that's a large part of this book. So I just really love this series. I'm really sad that it's over. I was struggling to finish this book and I was trying to get through it because it was taking me over 2 months to read it, which is very out of character for me. But it just felt bittersweet to finish this series because Carlos Ruiz sadly passed away a couple of years ago, and just knowing that we aren't going to get any more books from him kind of hurt my heart because I have fallen in love with this series and I have greatly enjoyed the ride that it has taken me on, and to realize that I'm not going to be on that journey ever again and I'm not going to anticipate another book from this author ever again kind of made me sad. Another historical fiction that I recently finished and was such a fantastic read is The Mad Women's Ball by Victoria Moss, and it is translated from French by Frank Wine. This cover is absolutely stunning, and when Abrams Books offered to send me a copy to review, I had to say yes because it has one of my niche interests that I just always want to read about, and that is asylums, especially set in historical settings. Asylums are just very interesting to me in terms of the treatment that happened in them and the fact that society just kind of accepted that treatment and didn't think of it as heinous. The Mad Women's Ball follows our main character Genevieve, who is a senior nurse at this asylum, and she comes across a new patient who is Eugenie. Eugenie is put into this asylum because she claims to speak to spirits, and her father thought that that was absolutely mad and unacceptable, so he put her into this asylum against her will and disowned her, and she has no way out of this asylum now. So Eugenie decides to enlist the help of Genevieve to try and escape this asylum, and this is their experience, one working at the asylum, one living at the asylum, and their varying experiences in this setting, and the way that this setting is also incredibly violent, incredibly heinous. There is a quote that I really enjoyed from this novel that says, "The asylum is a dumping ground for women who disturb the peace, an asylum for those whose sensitivities do not tally with what is expected of them, a prison for women guilty of possessing an opinion." This novel really explores the fact that these women were put into this asylum against their will. They were not put in there willingly. They all did very different actions that were deemed unacceptable by society, and in order to get rid of them rather than putting them in a prison, they were deemed mad and put into this asylum to endure incredibly violent treatment. And this novel is just so simplistic. and so short, but it covers so much in terms of what it's like to live in this asylum. And this is actually based off of a real asylum in France. I read this in 2 sittings, not only because it's short, but because it just had me gripped and I just wanted to know what was going to happen to Eugenie and Genevieve. And I just thought that those 2 characters were very interesting because they're in very different places in life, but they are teaming together, and Genevieve is kind of learning that this asylum and this place that she works in and this science that she is supporting is actually not good for these women. And I just loved the exploration of that. I loved their character development. I loved the vividness of the setting, and I just thought it was a fantastic historical fiction. And I also really enjoyed the fact that it is translated as well. So if you're looking for a historical fiction to read that will kind of open your eyes to a piece of history that not a lot of people talk about, I would highly recommend The Mad Women's Ball, because I did not know about this piece of French history and I learned so much through this, and it was just fantastically written. And it is also an Amazon Prime movie, and I am halfway through that movie. Have not finished it yet because I started it really late at night, but I do plan on finishing it. But so far, it is fantastic. It is just very hard to look at, and it is just so well done. And the woman from Inglourious Basterds is in it. She wrote it, directed it, and stars in it. A triple threat. I love her. Fantastic. I never show videos of me drinking my drink, but I mean, like, here we go. The last book that I want to discuss is The Goddess of Nothing at All. This is my first read of 2022 and my first 5-star read of 2022 and my first favorite read of 2022. The Goddess of Nothing at All is a Loki retelling that I decided to pick up because I saw it on TikTok, and I saw it during the height of the Loki show where people were recommending books inspired by Loki. So this is a retelling of Loki and his relationship to Sigyn, but it follows our main character Sigyn. This novel takes place over the course of Loki and Sigyn's entire life, and it is just so expansive, so well written, such a long, dark fantasy that just had me completely immersed in its world. It was very true to Loki's mythology, and it really highlighted how horrible Loki is and how snarky and terrible. He's just a terrible person or god, and this was really highlighted in that story. So we follow our main character Sigyn as she has a budding relationship with Loki, how she has a very strained relationship with her father Odin, and it kind of follows the aftermath of that. If you don't know a lot about Loki and you only know Loki from the MCU and you want to learn more about him in terms of authentic Norse mythology, I would highly recommend this story because it was very true to his mythology. It really highlighted how terrible of a god he was, and it just opened my eyes to how different Loki from the MCU is from Loki from actual Norse mythology. I did not realize that when people write dark fantasy, they actually mean that it's like gruesome and very violent, and I did not realize that. So I was like, oh, let me start this nice Loki retelling. Let me see what I'm going to get myself into. It says it's a dark fantasy, but maybe that's just because it's like, oh, it's about Loki. Loki's always a dark character. Let me see what this is about. When the author wrote a dark fantasy, they really meant a dark fantasy. This fantasy does not hold back in terms of highlighting what Loki went through with Sigyn. All to say, this quickly became a favorite read of mine because it taught me so much about Loki. It was thoroughly entertaining. It was all I thought about when I was reading this book. It just had everything I wanted and more in a Loki retelling. I actually filmed a whole reading vlog reading 2 Loki retellings, and I compared and contrasted both of them, but this one was actually my favorite. So if you want to learn more about my thoughts, if you want to see more of my reactions, I will be sure to link that reading vlog down below because I had a lot of fun filming it and I just thought it was a great video overall. So I would highly recommend watching that after watching this video. So those are 5 fantastic books that I highly recommend. We have nonfiction, we have historical fiction, and then we have a mythological retelling that I absolutely adored and cannot stop raving about. There is something for everyone in this Books and Brews, and I feel like some of these reads are very underrated, like The Mad Women's Ball, The Goddess of Nothing at All. Oh my god, that rhymed. We love to see it. So let me know if you are planning to read any of these books. Let me know if you have read any of these books, what your thoughts are about them. If you want to follow me anywhere else to support me as a creator, all my links will be down below. Thank you for spending your time with me, and I will see you in another video very soon. Bye.